Roku, the #1 selling smart TV operating system in Canada. This, according to the NPD Group, who has been providing expert analytics and market research to corporations for over 50 years. But what exactly is Roku? What are they all about? And should you jump on their bandwagon? Since Roku has been gaining popularity over the last couple of years, there's a good chance you actually already have a TV or streaming box with Roku. And if you don't, you may well have it on your next TV. In this video, we'll dive into Roku's business model so you understand what you're signing up for. We'll discuss what makes Roku great and what they're still missing. Let's jump in. You can certainly be forgiven if you've never heard of Roku before. They've really only gained notoriety in the last couple of years. But if you hadn't heard of Roku, it's time you did. In 2020, Roku held 38% of the market share across the US and 31% in Canada. Roku, for the uninitiated, is effectively an operating system for your television. Originally a project inside Netflix, but eventually spun out to be its own company. Roku released its first set-top box in 2008, and then later in 2014 began partnering with TV original equipment manufacturers. The main goal of Roku is to allow you to download TV apps and to use them with as much ease as possible. It's in direct competition with other TV operating systems like Apple TV, Tizen, WebOS, FireOS, and Google TV, and more. When considering purchasing a new TV, the operating system it ships with is just as important as other factors like screen size, frame rate, and resolution. You probably never put too much thought into the operating system that your TV uses, but it is a critical component to enjoying your TV viewing experience. As you would expect, a lot of people get Roku when they purchase a new TV because it is, after all, a TV OS. Roku has partnered with over 15 OEMs to provide the software component for their TVs. These include some well-known brands like Sharp, RCA, TCL, Sanyo, and Hisense. The other way to get the Roku system is by buying one of Roku's own set-top boxes. They are small all-in-one systems that you can connect to any TV with a HDMI port. With a price range of between $40 and $190, set-top boxes are an affordable way to add smart functionality to a non-smart TV that you may otherwise be looking to replace. A few weeks ago, I actually did a review of the Roku Stream Bar, which is kind of a 2-in-1 streaming media player and soundbar. If you want to check that out, I'll actually link it above here and at the end of the video. And while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're a technology follower, you might know that some of the biggest TV manufacturers actually design and ship their own TV operating systems on their devices. For example, Samsung has their Tizen OS, LG maintains and ships WebOS on their TVs. So why do so many other brands opt to make a deal with Roku to ship their OS? While working with Roku does come with some perks, such as preferred placement in retail stores, great supply chain relationships, and a consistently lower return rate on Roku TVs compared to competitors, the primary reason is much simpler. Using the Roku OS is just easier and cheaper. It's incredibly expensive and time-consuming to design, build, and maintain an operating system. Using Roku's OS allows the TV manufacturer to focus on developing better quality hardware while spending less overall than if they had developed the software in-house, especially since they can license the Roku OS for free. Have you noticed that TVs are getting cheaper? This is part of the reason. OEMs get a free operating system and therefore you get a cheaper TV. But Roku can actually turn around and make up to $150 in revenue over the 6 to 7 year period or the life of that TV. Wait, what? If TV manufacturers can license the OS for free, how does Roku make money? Roku actually makes money in 3 ways. The first we've already talked about, revenue from their set-box top sales. The second way they make money is on the platform itself. They do this by serving you ads and by taking a cut of every transaction on the platform itself, such as signing up for different TV apps and subscriptions. This of course raises the specter of being tracked by yet another electronic device in our lives, our smart TV. Yes, Roku has admitted that it tracks your watching habits through a technology called automatic content recognition, or ACR. According to Roku, they don't sell your personal information, they simply make use of it for targeted advertising. And while for some this is of little concession, Roku states that they only monitor your use of the TV itself and not ambient audio within your house. You may or may not be surprised to find out that Roku is not the only smart TV operating system doing this. Virtually every TV brand has confirmed it has some form of tracking. And then don't forget that the actual apps themselves also meticulously track everything you do on their service. The third way Roku makes money is by branded buttons on their remotes. If you've seen a Roku remote, you'll probably notice right away that there are branded buttons on the remote that will take you directly to popular streaming services. The big one that stands out, of course, is the Netflix button, which they've had for several years now. These services pay Roku to be on the remote. From my experience, earlier versions of these buttons were not all that great. My older Roku remote has branded buttons for streaming services that aren't as popular and, quite frankly, I don't use. The newer remote that I picked up has what I personally find to be more useful buttons like Disney Plus and YouTube. What makes Roku great? Well, let's start with the hardware products. They have a simple lineup of Roku players. Starting at $39.99 Canadian, the Roku Express provides HD 1080p picture quality. The Roku Premier is $44.99 and levels up to 4K HDR. Then the Roku Streaming Stick Plus for $69.99 also provides 4K HDR and includes a remote with TV power and volume controls. And of course, they have the Roku Stream Bar, which offers all of the above with the addition of cinematic sounds and Dolby Audio. All of these devices are powerful, loading content and stabilizing HD content quickly. On top of that, they are consistently rated to be one of the easiest streaming systems to set up. Despite not being quite as slick as some of its competitors, the Roku interface on your TV is probably the simplest and easiest to use. And yet there's actually more customization as well. You can easily add, delete, or even rearrange apps on your home screen. Roku also allows you to change your theme, which is essentially the background images behind your menus. All of this can be done either on the TV, online from your computer, or on their mobile app. Being able to use your computer or app makes it easier to type and to search for content, and you can do it from anywhere. According to many of the tech reviewers out there, Roku generally has more apps than some of the competition. That said, if we're talking about the major apps, Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, you can find those on every platform. Roku is also the leader in free content. They make it particularly easy to search for free movies and TV shows. Plus, they have their own streaming service called the Roku Channel, which is a collection of ad-supported TV shows and movies. You can view this with ads for free, or you can pay a subscription fee to have the ads removed. The Roku app is also a nice addition. From your phone, you can browse the channel store and add or remove channels. You can also browse content in the What's On section. When you find a movie or show that you want to watch, you can see both free and paid options to watch it. You can also stream photos, video, or music to your Roku device from your mobile phone. Plus, you get a giant remote in the palm of your hands with all the same buttons as the physical remote and more. The last thing I'm going to talk about, which makes Roku great, is its consistency. With the number of devices that Roku is on, you can have a consistent experience on every TV in your household. For anyone who doesn't want to learn the quirks of a new OS every time, this is great. It also offers consistency through its account system. Once you set up your account, you'll get the same experience on each device that you sign in on. With Roku's guest mode, a lot of hotels and Airbnbs are putting in Roku TVs. With guest mode, their account is secure and won't have recommendations or content interfered with by guests using the TV. Guests can also sign in on the TV and have it feel like they're at home. So what is Roku still missing? Honestly, not much, but if it comes down to nitpicking, here we go. First off is the interface. The Roku interface is a bit of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's dead simple. If you know how to use a smartphone, then you know how to use the Roku home screen because it's basically a grid of apps. But that's kind of the issue. Most other smart TV interfaces are getting a little bit smarter at presenting themselves to the user. For instance, presenting content that the user is currently watching or that it thinks they might be interested in on the home screen. Both Google TV and Fire TV do this well. Hopefully Roku gets an update out at some point to catch up on that side of things. Second, many Roku players now support AirPlay 2, which allows users to cast from supported apps to the Roku device. This is great, but ultimately doesn't provide the same level of compatibility as Chromecast, which is available on Google's devices. Chromecast is just available on more smartphone apps, and AirPlay is only really available on iPhone and iPad. So unless you're bought into the Apple ecosystem, that won't do much for you. My last critique is that some of my favorite apps aren't on Roku. If you're a Canadian sports fan, then you've probably heard of TSN and Sportsnet. Well, they aren't there. I don't think that's really a dig on Roku though. Somebody has to send TSN and Sportsnet the memo that Roku is now the market leader among smart TV platforms. I know that I can just AirPlay the game over to the device, but it would just be a much more enjoyable experience if there was just an app on my home screen. So to summarize, Roku is absolutely tearing it up when it comes to the smart TV scene, and they don't really show any signs of stopping. It's simple and easy to set up and use. It has most of the apps you want, and they're running a smart business that's allowing them to gain market share. By focusing their business on only one part of the smart TV experience, Roku's survival really hinges on their ability to build the best TV OS. They are getting the most important things right and providing a great overall experience to their users. And that's great because it's allowed them to continue to grow while going head to head with some of the biggest companies in the world, who often have an entire ecosystem of products and services. So there it is, everything you need to know about Roku. Hit that like button and be sure to subscribe for more Technology Paul. Be sure to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on Roku as well. Do you have a Roku device? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Prefer something else? Let me know below. We'll see you in the next one.